But right now, a thing happened. We have to all hands on deck, we have to fix this bug. The bug is in the release a while ago, someone implemented the feature that deletes all the files out of the user's home directory. And it was just discovered. So all hands on deck. We branch directly from master. We make the change, we commit to master. Development continues. We pull that change. What's going on? Yeah. We merge master to base and thence to release the topic. So what's going on is after the hotfix, after we merge it, we remove the deletion code from master. We merge it into base, into we won't merge into release directly because we'll merge into the topic branches, and then we will merge it into release. And development will continue as if nothing ever happened, except it's in the history. So I hope that does that explain kind of what you were thinking? Like you had to add a feature because this feature has been pushed into master, it's on production, had to go right away. It also is in base, and because everything branches from base and everything, when you make changes to base, you pull those changes to the topic branches, that it's applied to everything. It's kind of like doing distributing the example of distributed changes by base, but the difference is we took immediate action and also applied it to the production branch. Does that answer your question?
It probably will after you go more into this.
Okay.
I believe his question was if you have two clients, and if you have one initial code base and you have two clients, for example, you have Facebook and you have
okay, so if you have two clients,
new features that need to be available to both clients.
But you cannot. Are you trying to release them simultaneously? Do you have enough developer manpower where you release them
We
simultaneously?
have all the developers we need.
He's talking about a much harder problem where you have one common core code base, then you fork it into two directions with different features for different clients. But you want to add common core features to both. And that's a hard problem because either you have to break it apart into multiple repos.
What we do with this is we do the prefixing unique names to all the branches.
But that's not the solution, right? Because then when
It's
you
the solution.
But then when you merge, you have to like go in and undo part of the merge to make sure you don't write over customer A's unique changes with customer B's.
So I guess that is.
So you either have to cherry pick or you have to do a complicated get structure.
Yeah, and in general, I think we're getting into that situation.
Right. It's a much harder problem, and it always comes up whenever anyone talks about a branching model.
And the thing is gets branching is relatively easy. So I mean, you end up getting into these deep holes because you can. Meanwhile, development continues as per the normal cycle. Now, another important part of this process, which I don't know if you noticed, well, we incremented the minor version number and not the major because it's a hotfix release, which is once again orthogonal to the process, I believe, but it's pretty standard, I think, to use the last number as your hotfix version number. Minor features go in the minor branch, and if you do a complete rewrite of the API, you change the first number. All right. It's much better with more than 4 people every time. Rebuilding release. Now, what did I get back to the principles? Remember how I said that release is always rebuildable? That's because you can do it sometimes. You can do it anytime. And this is why specifically why you branch from base and you share changes via base and you don't share changes via release. And someone might be thinking, because someone asked at the TAPA meeting, why doesn't everyone just pull from release? And it's because release must be rebuildable. So you implement the email language feature. Other developer comes in, he implements the email sending feature. They get merged. One gets merged into release. Development continues on language feature. We can't ship this. This could also be the example of someone detecting the delete all the files feature. But regardless, whatever happened in yellow, we can't ship it right now. But it's already been merged to release. Meanwhile, this development is continued on. This stuff was a simple change. This was the localization. It can be released, but not this crap. So what do? Well, we just delete release. It's gone. Delete the branch name. You get another release based off of base. You merge your changes in. And you release it.
How is that any different than
Wait,
just?
I didn't say merge. You do your code, and then you release.
How is that any different than just resetting the head on release?
That
Backwards,
is what we
right?
did. It's not say that release. When I say delete release, I mean the release points to a different commit now.
Okay. But I mean, if
What
you
is-
did that, then base and release could just still be the same.
I'll get back to you on that.
Okay.
Base is also how, I mean, you distribute changes. I think the goal is that, I don't think that, okay, so yeah, I understand the process enough to cover this. What we do, I don't believe that we push release to a shared space. The person cutting the release is the one building the release branch, and so it's much easier to delete that, whereas base is used for sharing changes that are going to be common. So it's much harder to, once you push the change, it's much harder to delete the branch and say it's something new, because everyone has to, you have to do a force to push it, and everyone else will have to take extra action to pull it down, and otherwise it'll do a merge.
I see what you're saying.
Okay, so changes made, released, and that yellow guy, his code doesn't exist. So that was the slides that I have. I think that I can go over this and answer some more questions.
I got one. Please feel free to shoot me from off topic.
No problem.
So the whole idea of what you just showed, this whole process, the snapshots of Git is, if there's an issue with this application or there's an issue with this, whatever this object is, we can go back and track where the problem is.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's what version. And that's what version control gets you. Yeah, and the rebuildability. So the reason for the branches is the master is guaranteed to always be working code.
Right.
What that
Master
buys
be like
you,
stable.
the buy-in of getting that, what you get out of that is the example in the hotfix release cycle. You didn't have to worry about master being once committed to master. I've been in this situation in other places before. The hotfix comes in, the code on master is working. You just implement the hotfix, you're done. The other developers continue working in their topic branches. They get your changes via base, and everything continues. What it allows is it allows a high degree of concurrency among the developers. So that's what you specifically get from Git Flow is that.
Release master, development master, branches off.
I can go back through the slides to it.
Every commit from everybody can be commented on, worked on, seen through. I mean, everybody can get their stabs in every
So
little
this-
piece. You backtrack back up the
This
screen.
doesn't seem that much
Any point
different
you
than
go.
Git flow.
What did we review? I see. I skipped jumps doing using Git Flow to this, so I'm the less opportune person to talk on it. Oh, actually, we can see Git Flow.
Yeah, go back to their graphic.
Okay, then I would say the thing, at least looking at it naively, hotfix is not a series of branches. There's no develop line. Assuming
Well, your
that's-
develop is their base. I mean, your base is their develop.
yeah. But I'm not really sure how the workflow goes. I haven't actually used Git Flow
Actually, it is a little different.
because I believe we're doing all our work in topic branches.
Well, there's his own
Independent.
feature branches up to the side, but I can see the difference is that they pull their base, saying that their develop is base,
Mhm.
then they pull their release off of base, whereas you're merging your topics into release.
Yep, that is the difference. That is one of the differences. So,
So what does that get you?
what does that get? I'm not really sure what the. See, I'm not. I came to using the Git methodology of branch, however the hell you feel like branching, kind of Wild West,
Yeah.
and to using this. So any intermediaries between there are sort of
It's
lost on me.
it's
Hard to
very
see. Hard to see the value add.
Is the advantage that your release is always rebuildable?
I believe that our advantages are our principles.
But I think their develop is always supposed to be. Can you go back to the Git flow? I think they're supposed to keep their develop always buildable too.
But the MC master has those long periods. So how do they handle hotfix? Their hotfix.
They just create a branch off a master just like you do,
Yep.
and then they push it over to their base, just like you do.
Yep. We have another variant of this called, I think it's called Git Fluxed because of special unique requirements, where in addition to master, which is prod, we have a pre-prod, which represents the pre-prod environment. Don't ask. But everything applies the same except the last step before going into master is going into pre-prod. So, and when we get to the hotfix,
The purpose of the release branch is to
Is
pull
the-
together all the features.
yeah, it's,
And
and,
make
it's,
sure
and
they're
to be
all working.
throwawayable. Yeah,
And
to
you
be
can test it, like you can have a build manager, or you can have automated nightly builds that's always rebuilding release to make sure it builds properly, or.
Yeah, I do know. I'm not sure if my environment we don't have the project I'm working on. We don't have automated testing yet.
Just throwing out all the hypotheticals.
So
But-
base is just merge? Is that just where you merge everything?
Yeah, when the developer merges their own changes into the release branch, and every release has an owner.
I still don't get the point of the base and
Okay,
release,
right.
both having both, except that
We don't.
Dylan was alluding to the fact that if you have to go back in time and roll back release, back a commit because of
Go
something
back.
it doesn't make the graph harder. What it makes harder is the interaction of the developers
Yep.
with the server, because now they have to know extra command line flags to sync back up because some history has been undone. I think that's about right, isn't it? I mean, why
Yeah.
you might have
Yeah, I
trouble.
believe that's my understanding. I'm going to be poking my coworker about this as well. A lot of the questions about base. Base is a recent addition, and I believe that it exists for the distributed changes. Because otherwise, there would be you distribute a change into release, and I think this happened. You distribute a change using release, but then there's another change prior in release that you need to get rid of, and it becomes harder to do that. And of course, it's really interesting because it's never like you never say, "Oh, that's impossible to do." It's just how much work do you want to go through?
So if you guys are distributing your changes via base, and I thought I heard you say earlier that there's really only like one guy that's doing the release branch, pulling stuff in and
Mhm.
testing it.
Mhm.
What that means is you have one QA person who's making sure everything's good, and you'll notice that every developer is pulling all of their base for what they do their development off of base, which is known, good, and stable.
Yeah, because it's coming from master. So it does limit the amount of QA.
But then, how does feature one, and what if feature one needs feature two to be done first? Or like he has to stop and wait for developer B to
Well, that's
finish
what
feature
happens.
two?
Well, that's what. So feature 2 being yellow, feature 1 being green.
So green gets 2 steps down and realizes, oh shoot, I need yellow to be done in
Mhm.
order to do green.
Sounds
Oh,
like
so
a
then they
program
update
management.
base.
Yeah. That's an
How come
interesting
some of the
soundtrack.
changes go to base and some go to release?
Because release is always needs to be rebuildable.
Only base does release.
Basically,
No, base is.
No, look, there's a
Base
topic
is
all the
the
way
end
down in the
system.
bottom right that's going to
Yes,
release.
base, base doesn't always go to release. Release always copy, or is always cloned from base. So the reason of pushing this change back here is instead of release, and the reason that every time you create a new topic it comes from base, is because if you get into the situation where you're basing this off of release, and release gets rebuildable, then one of these feature branches which started out being based on release doesn't exist anymore. What this does imply is that you need to be cautious with what you put in base, because if you,
Right.
once you put it in the base, you're kind of stuck with that change set.
And then it requires a lot of revision of history for everyone's repos.
And I think that we strive to not have to do rebase
So
afterwards.
base is like a master that exists.
Master
that
light.
is not a master.
Yeah, base is not on production yet, but it's,
So
Temporary
it's not
master.
released as a master, but it's a temporary master.
Yeah.
yeah.
And I'm assuming that what would happen is,
It is not rebuildable necessarily. Easily.
it
I mean, it's
probably,
always rebuildable. not
yeah,
necessarily.
probably.
I mean, technically, everything's always rebuildable, but the thing we strive is that release is rebuildable, because we can throw it away and recreate it from the topics at any point in time.
So whoever did orange there, presumably the step that's not shown is somebody QA'd that before it was put
Yes.
into base to then send off.
Or all
Whereas
everyone else.
instead of pulling it into, which I don't know why, it seems like almost like it should have been pulled into release and then pulled into base.
You can presume that in fact it happened that way.
Like it seems like it should have been pulled into release, tested, and then pulled into base.
My assumption of an example for this is that it would be something that doesn't touch related code. It's just something in the background.
Yeah. All right, I get why
Okay.
there's a base and release now.
So, and of course, the mid-cycle hotfix is just pretty standard Git. I mean, it really doesn't involve, the only thing where it touches this workflow is the fact that after you've made a new release, that's kind of confusing. After you've changed what master is and done a new hotfix, because it's not actually released, you pull it into base so that future development can still be based on it.
And all of the base and release stuff is just because you guys want to remove history rather than just do a commit that doesn't undo.
I don't know if that's the only reason. Repeat your question, repeat your statement.
So you were showing how like if something went wrong with release, you would
Mhm.
roll back the history, and that's why you have a base and
Yeah,
a release.
because, and it all,
But the other workflow for that is to do an undo commit,
a revert.
a reverse commit,
Yeah.
which a lot of people don't like. So
Yeah, I mean, all of this behavior stems from wanting to keep these things always true.
yeah,
So if we keeping all of these things true, and the preface for this talk is that there are there's like 100,000 different possible ways of using Git,
Yeah.
probably Mercurial as well. This is just one way, but it's the way that we've particularly found to be helpful. In my own experience, the things that I like most as a developer, relatively speaking, new using this workflow, is that my branches are always independent from all the other developers. I don't have to worry about stuff being vastly different from what's on production, because I'm just branching off of base, which is master. And previously, as I said, we did branch directly off of master. Base was created to solve a specific case of changes being lost when a release branch had to be rebuilt. The other thing that I like, other than branches being developed in isolation, is the fact that if I end up I'm the release manager and I merge stuff into release and I need to rebuild it, that I can. So, and now, time. Ryan. Anything else?
No. I think I would like you to hit my web server for some kind of.
Sure. I can use Vegeta. One of these.
Not killing my web server. Hit my web server gently. So, I haven't used this projector before, and I'm not really sure what it's.
It should just work. I can.
It did not just work.
Here, let me, if you open the turn on, just do X, Y, and R. Should be BJ1. For BJ1.
This is a different thing for materials. So there was this guy that wrote the Git flow model, and it became insanely popular, and it still is. And then I used Mercurial, and there was a guy that wanted to bring that over to Mercurial, but Mercurial doesn't have some of the limitations that Git has about branching. So you can simplify the graphic, and that's what this was. You can have branches in Mercurial that don't have names. That's what makes it different. But conceptually, it's still the same. You still have like the different lines for.
I think it's scaling it or something?
They both do all the same stuff. It's just that Git has to have some
Okay.
things that are.
You can do you want it to be, you want it to resize to fit, or is that okay?
Forces the branches
that
have a name for Mercurial.
will probably work for this presentation.
Branches.
So I have been working on some visualization for my company, and I've been playing with a program called GLT, which is a OpenGL-based visualization tool that's intended to be used for log files. A really good example is you can run it on your Apache log files, and it'll show these bubbles based on what kind of traffic you're getting. For every page hit, for every type of file, whether it's an image or a video or text or a web page, it'll show you each of those things. So Dylan, if I can get you to go to my server.
Okay. That one?
Yes.
Okay. Any particular file or just that?
Well, I was hoping you'd open it in your browser and just click on things.
Okay.
But first, let me start this up with Apache. So it starts up with a nice blank screen. It doesn't display anything until you start getting traffic. So if Dylan's going to hit my server, we see that he is now hitting a bunch of stuff. Over here, it shows that he's hit a bunch of PNGs. His user agent is wget. He's throwing a bunch of warnings because these files don't exist. It's coming from our site. The content that he's trying to hit are images, and everything that he's hitting is a 404.